Guys, everyone is wondering about what's happening in the country. In Forbes, orange, past smudgy, past Bathurst, we've got Forbes. We're going to tell you what's happening in this precinct, and we've got some incredible people with us in a couple of seconds.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to episode 370. What's going on in the bush? We've got myself, Michael Bergio, Mark Novak, Michelle and Michael from Michael Robinson & Co. in Forbes, New South Wales, about 5 hours away from DY to tell us about it. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
It's a good topic because if anyone's sort of living on the northern beaches, the city life, they always sort of dance with the idea, think of the idea like, what if I just go further west, do that country lifestyle, do the sea change? What would it be like? What is the property investment environment like? So it's good to have you guys on to tell us what's been happening. We had you on 6 months ago, probably maybe a month after COVID, I think it would have been. And you said the market was still very strong, a lot of people coming in with interest rates, but how's everything been the last 6 to 7 months? Well, introduce yourself, what you guys do first.
Okay, so my name's Michelle, and I'm the sales agent here at Michael Robinson's. I mainly deal with residential, a little bit of commercial, but that's usually Michael's domain. So, very busy out here, which is good. Certainly haven't had any slow up at all. If anything, it's just busier and busier every week, more going on, which is great. Commercial life?
Well, look, the town's going well. There's a lot of employment, a lot of people looking, employers looking for employees. It seems to be the biggest problem. So things are going along well. Businesses are going well. The rural side, sheep and cattle prices are excellent. So there's a lot of money going around the town. And there's a lot of people that are looking for investments that probably possibly can't afford to buy in the metropolitan area where you fellas are operating, but they can buy houses in Forbes for between the $300,000 to $500,000 price range. So the return on the $500,000 house is around about $500 a week gross, so about $26,000 per annum. So if you take your rates, your insurance and agent fees out, you're going to get about $19,000 net in your hand. $500,000 in one of the banks, they're going to get about 0.5%, so they're going to get $2,500, so you don't need to be I'm trying to work that one out, and of course you get the capital growth of about 5% per annum, so your wealth picks up another $25,000 on that $500,000 investment each year. So it's a tens of thousands difference between having money in the bank and buying an investment property or a residential investment property in Forbes.
You can't afford not to buy.
No,
well,
exactly.
You can't. That's right. There's a lot of investors here. We've got investors. They've got between 20 and 30 residential properties with us. They're doing extremely well, and they keep buying each year to get that better return. The other side of the coin is for home buyers. Because interest rates are so low, repayments are often less than what the current market rent would be for that equivalent property. So it's a no-brainer. If they can get a deposit together, they can pay it off, and in 10, 15, 20 years, they've got an asset that's paid for. So there's a lot of people looking, especially first home buyers, because they're not paying stamp duty, as we all know. They can get the foot in the marketplace, and away they go, and then they can upgrade down the track if they want to. So very active market, because things mainly, I think, in country areas are affordable.
And the other thing, like at the moment, I've got literally shopping lists. So I've got people on my book saying, this is what I want, I'll buy one, I'll buy two, I'll buy three, because, the money in the bank's just not working for them.
And is that people living in the area or outside investment mostly?
Look, there's a lot of people, a bit of both. There's a lot of outside investors, people in the metropolitan area and other larger regions.
More than usual investment?
There's certainly more interest from people out of the area. There's a lot of people that are local investors that like to be able to drive past their property, even though us as agents manage it for them and have a look at it and say, yeah, it looks good, and they don't want to necessarily invest out of town. But there's certainly a lot of people mainly a lot of people from the metropolitan area that can't afford a 1.5 or 2 million unit around DY down to Manly or up further up the northern beaches. So they're getting a better return. They might get quite as much capital growth, but a lot of people are looking for the cash flow to live on, especially as they get older and retire. So and if you've got 5 or 6 or 10 properties in Forbes, and you're getting a bit older in the 60 to 70 range, and you're running short of cash, you can sell one for 400,000 or 500,000. It still takes a bit of spending, if you know what I mean. So
what were you going to say, Mark?
You can sell.
Yeah, I got a question. What's the sentiment? So you guys are 5 hours out of Sydney. You're getting people, sounds like, coming from different parts of Australia, particularly Sydney. What's the sentiment from a country person? Like when it's someone who's lived in Forbes, second, third generation, and someone from Sydney rocks in and buys a property next door, is the sentiment that everyone waits and sees what they're like? Do people embrace them straight away and take over a cake and a cup of tea? Like what happens?
No, it's very friendly.
Very friendly.
Good community.
A lot of people relocate from Sydney. They might get a job up here with one of the bank's insurance company, the local shire council, or one of the local businesses. And the comment that comes back to me from people that do relocate from Sydney is they should say that we should have done this years ago. Because we've got excellent high schools. Excellent
great community too. Like lots of community activities and they do embrace new people in the town for sure. So, everyone seems really happy, and then you find that their friends or relatives will then make the move as well, which is great.
So it's a good place to live, good place to bring up children, because you've got 2 high schools, 3 primary schools, brand new hospital. We've got more GPs per head of population of Forbes, I think, than anywhere else in Australia. So there's plenty of medical services. Great golf course, 18-hole championship golf course. Bowling clubs the same, great bowling greens. We've got croquet, squash, hockey, rugby league, rugby union, soccer, tennis, whatever you want to play that's here for children and adults. So it's a great environment to live. And of course, it's only 5 minutes away from everything. So if we decide to go and play golf at 8:30 this morning, bring your boys up, take your clubs, meet you at the first tee, away you go. It's not, you don't have to book in or weeks and weeks.
Or travel an hour to get there, yeah.
And the other thing is, if you're in Forbes, you're here for the year and you're a bit run down, bang, you can get in a car, go down to DY, go booking somewhere with you blokes down at the beach, spend 2 or 3 weeks there, get rejuvenated, and then come back. So it's just a great place to live.
People moving into country areas, are they sort of young families, or are they retirees? What are you seeing? Is there a sort of bit of both, or what are you seeing?
Well, a bit of both. We've had the local, it's quite a large retirement village, only a new one, which is run by Catholic Healthcare. They've built 16 new residences alongside the retirement village on a separate block of ground that they've aimed at retirees. Now, I think there's 14 out of the 16 are sold. They've only been on the market probably 4 months, so that sort of astounded us, because a lot of people have opted to sell their house in town, and some people have come from out of town. Now they've got plans to build up to 60 residences there, so that's purely for older people that are retired with no children. And then there's people who come into town with children looking for a better lifestyle. And I think one of the attractions is the fact there's plenty of work, or a couple of attractions, plenty of work around, and also a great place to bring children up. So they feel safe, and they're just a really great environment. And look, we've got...
Yeah, so that you've got the family homes being sold to go up to the retirement village, and then those new families coming in, which is great.
And Michelle, a bit of a loaded question, but what would, just on the more technical side, how many would you have at open homes on an average Saturday, days on market? Are you seeing a lot of auctions, private treaties? And do many people just do a lot of knockdown rebuilds? I can imagine, how is a lot of the residential area very redeveloped or more traditional homes? Because I can almost imagine the mindset from a Sydney-sider, getting their knockdown rebuild, or are they sort of leaving as is?
No, you can certainly do that, probably more traditional, and then, the town's opening up and spreading out, so there's blocks of lands for new builds coming up. There's a new subdevelopment coming up that council's organised, so that'll have something like 200 blocks eventually, so all different sizes from, just your small 750 through to, 10 acres. So there's lots on offer for someone who wants to build a new home. Yeah, so plenty going on.
Well, Shit, it's
And
on the
Yeah, so the open inspections, we don't get anything like the volume that you guys get there. We could probably have 5 or 6 groups through is probably a decent open out here. Sometimes you only get 1 or 2, but we have had it where you've had, 20 on through. There's a hot auction coming up, and there are quite a few of auctions coming up in the next few months. So,
do you know everyone when they come through your open house? Do you
everyone,
go, hey Barry, hey Maria?
Yeah,
you do.
No, we know everybody. So all this COVID business, obviously we're sticking to the rules, but we know everybody. So
and when you see someone come to your open house, when you see someone come to your open house that you don't know, you're like, he's a Sydney person.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, the big advantage in knowing the people, you know their background, you know a fair bit about their financial background, so it gives you a bit of a heads up on them when they come through, that you can say, yeah, look, Mark's interested in this house, and we know he's got the funds available to purchase it, so it gives us a bit of a lead, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And access sort of is it just a 5-hour drive? Is there small airports from Sydney to Forbes? What sort of 5 hours? Yeah.
We've got a little aerodrome here, but the main flights from Sydney would come into Parkes, and then it's a 20-minute drive to Forbes from Parkes if you're flying. But it's only a 5-hour drive, which I guess might be a lot for someone who lives in the city. But out here, it's nothing. You can be there by lunchtime. So, yeah.
They're spending a lot of money in Forbes this coming year in 2021 on the railway line, because we're on the main line between Melbourne and Brisbane. So the Inland Rail, which is a very big project from the federal government, they're going to spend, I think it's hundreds of millions on doing railway bridges around in the Forbes Shire. So there's a lot of money and workers and things to come into the town in this next 12 months. So that'll be a great thing when it eventually finishes.
Yeah.
So we've talked about obviously where you guys are in Forbes, but what are the other, and we've touched a little bit on Parkes, but what are the other areas around you that people are loving? So Parkes, I spent a bit of time there as an exchange student when for a couple of weeks, absolutely loved it, but that was my exposure. But you got a really good exposure to all the areas around you. So half an hour in each direction. What have we got near Forbes?
Yeah, so a little bit over an hour, you've got Orange, which is probably a major centre. Dubbo's about an hour and a half. Oh. And so it's we're pretty central really. So you've got all major hospitals in both of those towns, so cities. But
so the big ones are Orange. The big ones are Parkes.
Dubbo's a bit over an hour away, so.
Dubbo's a big one. We all know Dubbo.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of sport, rugby league, rugby unions, and soccer, and all sorts of sports are played, into town between Forbes, Dubbo teams, Orange teams, Parkes teams, West Wylam, and Carnarvon. So we're sort of in the centre of it. So most people travel around and go to all those other centres as well as people from there travel to Forbes. So you get to know quite a lot of people in other towns.
Now, Queensland sort of kicked us in the guts a little bit when it came to holiday time through Christmas. I think everyone was locked in 2020, and at the end of 2020 they were like, we're going to go to Queensland, and they couldn't. Did you guys see a lot of New South Wales traffic coming through town and staying and spending money through that sort of December, January break?
A lot of Victorians.
Yeah. We've got, running through the middle of Forbes, we've got a magnificent lake. Now, Forbes itself is situated on the Lachlan River, but we've got this magnificent lake that runs right through the centre of town. The Shire, to their credit, have done it up magnificently in about the last decade, so there's plenty of picnic areas and covering areas. So there's also a free camping or parking area for caravans along the lake. So, any given night you might get 20 to 30 people staying there overnight. Then they head west or head north or south. But a lot of those people, some stay for 2 or 3, 4 days. They spend money, go to the bowling club and have a drink and a meal and so forth, buy their groceries, buy their petrol. So they're sort of a bonus for us, I suppose, for the retailers. But there's certainly a lot of people travel through because once again, we're on the main highway from Melbourne to Brisbane. So, and a lot of people, if they're going west, they'll come from Forbes, through Forbes, Condobolin, out to Burke out to those centres. So, because we're a central location, it's a great advantage for us. We're sort of in the middle of it, we're not on the fringes like some centres are. So yes, there's certainly a lot more people coming through.
Have you had any effects from COVID, as in with lockdown restrictions, a certain amount of people in cafes, restaurants?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, look, obviously we stuck to the rules. The town stuck to the rules that, the government put in place, but we haven't even had a COVID case in Forbes, so we've been very, very lucky.
What rules or restrictions did you have? Because, were you included because you're technically rural, aren't you? So were you in the
Sydney? We didn't get locked down like you guys did, no. Yeah, so...
Wow.
Limitations on numbers in hotels and restaurants and things like that, shops.
But we could still move freely around our area out here. Yeah.
So you had a good Chrissy New Year's then?
Yeah, it was very lucky.
We've been very fortunate.
Michelle and Michael, you mentioned buying a property for 400 to 500 grand, and it puts in your pocket 10 or 20 grand a year. It's a great investment. That 400 or 500 grand property, how much was that worth 10 years ago?
Oh, probably 150 to 200 max.
Wow.
Things have gone up considerably.
Yeah.
Gone up considerably, and they're still going up. You look at houses that were sold 12 months ago, there might be a 40 or 50,000 capital growth, and in that period of time. So percentage-wise, I haven't worked out, but it's a great capital growth and continuing along that line.
Well, a lot of people have the misconception that if you're buying in the sort of more rural country areas outside of Sydney, you're giving up capital growth. That's what a lot of people make that assumption. They feel, I'll probably get a better rental return, but the capital growth is not there. So it's really good to hear that.
And you got a very trustworthy face, Michael Robinson. It seems like whatever you say, I just believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's going to be worth $2 million next year. I'm buying. I believe you.
Well, you blokes should be investing in Forbes. Have a little investment, see how it goes over the next 2 or 3 years. Put your toe in the water, as they say. But the other thing, just to cut you short, with our residential property managements and so forth, we've got some excellent tenants and clients that go into property. So we've had very little problems. They run along. They're decent people. A lot of them have got good, well-paid jobs in government, semi-government, and also private sector. So there's plenty of demand for rental properties here. So it's not like you buy a property in 3 months' time and say, Michelle and Michael, why hasn't your property manager leased our property? We do it in a matter of days, and we've often got 5 to 10 people to choose from. We go through the applications like you people do with due diligence, and obviously pick the right tenant for the right property. And so there's plenty of people looking to lease, and so if people buy one, they're
guaranteed of a tenant because
they're not going to let time die. Put it that way.
Huge demand for rental at the moment out here. So rental properties, great tenants, just know where to put them.
Yeah.
Before we wrap it up, this is a live show. We are talking about going bush. If anyone's got any questions that's watching, feel free to throw them at us. Something that I asked you guys last time when we were on air was interest rates and deposit needed. What sort of interest rate, if you're buying in the bush, are you paying? What sort of deposit do you need do you need a larger deposit if you're buying in the bush?
Well, you don't. The interest rates, for first home buyers, the big four banks, they've got fixed rates, I think, for 2 to 3 years, under 2%. So
it's exactly the same.
Exactly. Same thing. And, the deposit depends on whether they've got other assets, of course, but first home buyers can get down to under the 10%, but most people come in with about a 15 or 20% deposit here. They can sort of get that money and go to the bank. And we've had nobody been knocked back from the big four banks on finance. So finance is readily available, which is a good thing. And to say that, they can go and show them, so that we can pay this house off at, $285 a week, which is, the same one's probably worth $260, to rent. So, a little bit more for some, and then others, it might be, a $400 repayment off their mortgage, and it could be a $500 a week rental. So the banks can see that they're not going to be under any stress to meet their repayments, and it's happy days for obviously the banks, and happy days for their clients and for us, of course.
When the COVID surge is over, is the bush surge going to be over?
Oh, I don't think so. I can't see an end to it at this point of view. I guess you never know what's down the track, but everything's so strong. It's great.
Well, I think what will happen is there's been so much good publicity for country areas in the metropolitan area. People are saying a lot of people are going to the bush. That the city, as you know, is getting, especially the southern southwest city, is getting chock-a-block with units, and once we get immigrants coming back into Australia, they're going to be really under the pump to find somewhere for them to live. And a lot of people getting to retiring age, and a lot of the younger ones are sort of now thinking, oh, well, maybe Forbes isn't a bad place. And if they get out there and have a look, often they'll say, look, we're going to go back to Sydney, put our place on the market, and move up here. So I think it's sort of opened everybody's eyes to COVID, that the country areas aren't sort of somewhere out in the way distance and isolated. And they have got good shopping, and they have got everything at your fingertips, and they have got specialist doctors and so forth. So, and great sporting facilities. So it's really it's been an eye opener, and I suppose to one degree it's been an ill wind. I guess it's sort of put us in the forefront, and we're embracing them quite hope that people do come out to the country.
And Michael, there's a question there.
Yeah, it says, is the lake clean and do people swim in it? So I don't know if there's a lake or river. I just Googled it and something came up.
Yeah, lake runs straight through the centre of town.
Yeah, look, the river, you can swim anytime. It's a free-flowing river. The lake is magnificent. There's people getting on there with canoes and boats. And
down the one end of it is actually a ski dam. So, they get their boats out there and skiing around it. Yeah, it's a really beautiful spot. We're very, very lucky to have it.
It's mandatory to do that in the nude, apparently.
Yeah, that depends on the body, generally.
Definitely. That's very scary, actually.
There we go. I got the face. Oh, there you go. Canoe.
So we're very lucky. But yeah, definitely, you can definitely swim in it. And like I say, they ski in it up one end of the ski dam, and then you've got canoes and get their little paddle boats out and spend a Sunday on the lake. It's lovely.
Beautiful.
I got to admit, I don't know much about country towns, but you just know that there's some that you hear and you just feel good about, and Forbes is definitely one of them, where haven't been exposed to a lot, but as a kid and as an adult growing up, it just brings a smile to your face when you say, Gundagai, Forbes, Dubbo, they're all beautiful places.
Yeah, I had a few rugby tournaments there when we were younger. So.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think
sport.
People are very big on sport. The children often play 2 or 3 different sports and things. Everything's accessible and so forth. So, it's a really great environment for people that are interested in sport. And a lot of people, go along and watch rugby, and they watch the rugby league, and they watch the soccer as they get older, and might have children or grandchildren playing. But it's certainly a great spot for it.
Beautiful. Well, thank you both for coming on. It's been a pleasure to have you back on, and we look forward to doing it again.
Thanks for having us on.
Thanks, Michelle.
Guys,
Thanks,
good
Michael.
luck. Have a great year. Okay. Speak soon. See ya. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Bye.